Today is my college entrance celebration banquet. Amid the cheers of relatives and friends, I perform a piano and singing show on the spot. As soon as I finish singing, the audience bursts into thunderous applause. However, I notice my sister-in-law quietly leaving the crowd and walking into the toilet. In my previous life, it was at this time that she poured toilet cleaner into my juice. Later, when it was found out through surveillance that it was her, she looked terrified and hid behind my brother crying, using ignorance as an excuse to clear herself of responsibility. The whole family was deceived by her innocent and beautiful appearance and asked me to forgive her and let the matter rest. But before I died, I heard her say in the most triumphant tone by my ear, "It's not that I can't tell the difference between toilet cleaner and syrup. I just can't stand that you are better than me. So I had to poison you dumb. You won't blame me, will you?" Coming back to my senses, I just saw her bring out the juice. Soon, my brother called me over. "This is the juice freshly squeezed by your sister-in-law. It has a throat-soothing effect. You just finished singing and your throat is dry. Drink some to moisten it." Looking at that glass of juice, I secretly swear that this time, I will definitely make them pay a painful price. 02 After my brother finished speaking, he turned his head and pinched my sister-in-law's chin, saying dotingly, "Why are you so good?" My sister-in-law punched him on the chest with her small fist and said coquettishly, "Hate it. So many people are watching. I'll be shy." After the coquetry, she glanced at me obliquely with her peripheral vision and pouted and asked, "Why don't you drink it, sister? Do you despise me for being clumsy and not liking my craftsmanship?" She has a breathtakingly beautiful face and deliberately creates the persona of a stupid but beautiful young wife. With a frown, my brother, this big lecher, is completely captivated. He immediately turns his head and orders me to drink it up. My eyes rolled, and I picked up the juice and pretended to drink it. In the next second, I took another cup and poured out half a cup and handed it to her. Sister-in-law has worked hard. I don't want to drink it all by myself. Let's drink it together. Just now you cheered for me below. Your throat must be very dry too. Her pupils shrank slightly, and she quickly waved her hand. I drank it inside just now. This cup is specially for you, sister. Just drink it. I also pouted like her and put down the juice. If sister-in-law doesn't drink it, how dare I drink it? Right, brother? My brother was very pleased to see us being modest to each other. Just drink it together. As he spoke, he took the initiative to pick up the half cup and feed it to my sister-in-law's mouth. As soon as my sister-in-law's lips touched the cup, she immediately screamed and jumped away. "It's so cold. I can't drink cold things." My brother was suspicious. "It's not cold." Just like every time he tastes the saltiness for my sister-in-law, he took a sip and tasted it. My sister-in-law's eyes widened. Just as she was about to speak, I grabbed her hand and forced her to turn and look at me. In these short 2 seconds, my brother had already drunk a large mouthful of juice. As soon as my sister-in-law said, "Can't drink it," he had already swallowed it. In the next second, my brother let out a shrill scream, just like me in my previous life. He covered his neck with both hands, opened his mouth as wide as possible, pushed everyone away and ran to rinse his mouth. My sister-in-law was so frightened that she followed him, her face ashen. There was a relative who is a doctor on the scene. He quickly examined my brother's throat. Then he came to the conclusion, the mouth, throat and other parts are all burned. He must be sent to the hospital immediately for gastric lavage. After a chaotic rescue, my brother's condition stabilized. It's just that he can never speak again in this life. Because he drank more than I did. In my previous life, I just took a small sip, but he just drank a big mouthful. My parents were heartbroken, and my brother's temperament also changed greatly due to his disability. And at this time, I asked my sister-in-law, "My brother became like this after drinking your juice. What did you put in it?" 03 My sister-in-law's face was full of horror. She threw herself beside my brother and cried so hard that she was out of breath. Her hair was messy, her face was flushed, and with innocent eyes. That face added a more broken beauty. My brother was captivated again and waved his hand to tell me not to ask. Dad also said to me, "Your brother had an accident. Your sister-in-law is the saddest." Don't say such inappropriate words at this time. I am not surprised by his reaction at all. After all, my sister-in-law is a stupid but beautiful woman. Stupidity is her get-out-of-jail-free card, and beauty is her amulet. However, I am very curious if their tolerance for my sister-in-law has reached the point where they can sacrifice everything they have. So I quickly checked the surveillance and showed them the process of my sister-in-law pouring toilet cleaner. The whole family was so shocked that they couldn't say a word. Just like in her previous life, my sister-in-law shook her head, bit her finger, and said innocently, "I'm just so stupid that I can't tell the difference between toilet cleaner and syrup. It wasn't on purpose. After all, their bottles are both blue." I pressed on, "Then, why did you urgently stop my brother when he was about to drink it and tell him not to drink?" I took the opportunity to play the second video. Her words, "don't drink," rang out clearly. Her face turned pale and panic flashed in her eyes. Staring at me fixedly, big teardrops rolled down. It was as if I were an unforgivable villain who had bullied her terribly. She said weakly, "I meant to say that your brother and I are preparing for pregnancy. Eating cold things is not good, so that's why I didn't let him drink it, sister. Don't be angry. I know it's my fault. She's doing this again. She always pretends to be innocent and pitiful. Before, they were all small matters and the family forgave her. This time, I wonder if they can still tolerate her?" I looked at my brother angrily. His face was filled with anger. I thought he would immediately hold my sister-in-law accountable. Unexpectedly, he grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. He pointed at me, opened his mouth and made ah sounds. His eyes were wide open, looking as if he wanted to kill me. In the next second, he took out his phone and sent messages frantically in the group. "It's all Diana's fault. If she hadn't been singing, Eugenia wouldn't have squeezed juice for her. If she hadn't forced Eugenia to drink half a cup, I wouldn't have tasted it for Eugenia to check the temperature." I sneered, "Your wife made a mistake and you don't blame her. Instead, you blame me. Eugenia is innocent. What's wrong with her good intentions? The one at fault is you. The juice should have been drunk by you. You should have been the one who became mute." I looked at my parents. They looked at us in embarrassment and then pulled me out of the hospital room door. Dad said, "Your brother is very emotional now. Don't confront him. Apologize first and wait until his anger subsides." I was furious. Why should I apologize? Eugenia put the poison. If I had drunk it too, I wouldn't be able to go to school and my life would be ruined. You don't blame the person who poisoned but blame me, the victim. Is there something wrong with your mind? Although I had expected his partiality, at this moment, I still felt heartbroken. I was both sad and angry. Mom saw my sadness and immediately held my arm to comfort me silently. Then she said to my dad, "Diana is the victim in this matter. If you want to blame someone, blame your daughter-in-law. I said earlier that this kind of girl is good-looking but not useful. You two, father and son, didn't listen and insisted on letting her in. Now it's fine. She has harmed our son and almost harmed our daughter. In my opinion, they must get a divorce." As soon as Dad heard the word divorce, his eyes dropped and his tone was not as tough as before. He said perfunctorily to us, "The young couple are very sad now. Let's talk about divorce later." Mom made her stance clear, there's no room for negotiation this time. They must get a divorce. Otherwise, my daughter will also be harmed by her. Hearing Mom's defense, my nose felt sour. In my previous life, only she defended me. But in the end, she was framed by my sister-in-law and became a wicked mother-in-law. Dad divorced Mom and kicked her out of the house to support my sister-in-law. Because my sister-in-law was unhappy, Dad withdrew all the divorce alimony he gave to my mom and didn't give her a single penny. She fell ill due to my death and finally passed away in a rented house outside. The landlord notified my brother to collect the body, but my sister-in-law said it was inauspicious. The father and son just ignored it and let Mom's body be dealt with haphazardly after it started to stink. You should know that the Dang family's power today is entirely due to the strength of my mom's family in the past. This time, I will take back everything that belongs to my mom for her. I stared at the way Dad looked at my sister-in-law. It was a kind of concern and love very similar to my brother's eyes. However, his eyes had a unique sense of peeping and he didn't dare to look at her as openly as my brother. At this moment, I suddenly had a malicious way of revenge. In marriage, my dad and my sister-in-law are in the same role. They are both children of working-class families from humble backgrounds. After my dad married into my mom's family, he became a big boss with the support of my mom's family and leaped into the upper class and achieved class mobility. But occasionally he would complain to his old friends that the bad habits of the upper class were too troublesome. In his bones, he didn't count my mom in his circle. But after my sister-in-law entered the family, he was always smiling. He always played young people's games with her, such as playing badminton and so on. They talked more than I did with my dad in the past 20 years. In my previous life, I was too slow to see the clues. Now looking at my dad's eyes again, I realize that it is definitely not the normal look of a father-in-law looking at his daughter-in-law. As for my sister-in-law, with her beauty, she has attracted a large number of suitors and finally chose my brother, a rich admirer. On the day she got married, I once saw her entangled with another man with my own eyes. That man was an ordinary person with no money. He knelt down and begged her not to marry. She turned resolutely and left a sentence: "The man I, Eugenia, choose must be rich, powerful and good-looking. He definitely can't be inferior. You are not worthy of me." From this, it can be seen that she is a vain person. I wonder if when my brother suddenly loses his power, will she get a divorce and find someone else, or will she have an affair within marriage so that the benefits don't flow to outsiders? There is one thing I can be sure of. That is, my brother's possessiveness towards her is extremely strong. Once, a person took one more look at my sister-in-law at a banquet. Afterwards, he was inexplicably plucked out of an eye. Although there is no obvious evidence, I can be sure that it was done by my brother. 05 After my brother was discharged from the hospital, in addition to still being amiable towards his wife, he was often moody towards others. He often got angry at me and sent messages in the group calling me a pest and cursing me to be unhappy all my life. When Mom spoke up for me, she was also scolded by him. He said, "A doting mother ruins her daughter." In a fit of anger, Mom directly sent a video of my sister-in-law making juice to the large group and let all relatives and friends judge. This move enraged my brother. He directly left the meeting and went home. In front of many old servants, he slapped Mom. This undoubtedly violated Dad's dignity. He immediately kicked my brother and scolded him for half an hour. When he heard that a business negotiation had failed due to my brother's absence, he directly announced the suspension of all my brother's positions and made my brother reflect on his mistakes behind closed doors. My brother could only rage helplessly. Because he couldn't speak, he was already aggrieved and afraid of losing his current position. Dad's decision undoubtedly ignited his last fuse. He ran to my room to settle scores with me. Not finding me, he vented his anger by smashing things in my room. That crazy look frightened my sister-in-law who witnessed the whole process. Especially when my brother kicked my piano to pieces, she was directly scared and ran away. At this time, I was in the RV, watching the 12 surveillance views of my home, leisurely blowing on the air conditioner and eating popsicles. My sister-in-law ran outside and secretly took out her mobile phone to make a call. "Mom, Brandon has a tendency towards domestic violence. He is so terrifying. He hasn't hit me yet, but he has been suspended by his father. What if he takes out all his anger on me in the future? I'm really so scared. Moreover, he is now mute and his mouth and teeth are also in bad condition. I find it so disgusting. I don't want to be with him anymore, but I'm not willing to get divorced just like this." At this time, my sister-in-law no longer pretends to be a delicate wife. She speaks normally now, and her eyebrows and eyes are full of anxiety and fear. I don't know what her mom said, but her face became even more terrified. Then she immediately said, "Yes. He is so obsessed with me. Divorce is really so difficult. And the money from divorce is definitely not as much as continuing to be a young mistress." With a pout, she said again, besides, if I get divorced, that Diana will definitely be very happy. I don't want to make her happy. I want to suppress her and suppress her forever and ever. This fierce look of gritted teeth is like she wants to swallow me in one bite. Very good. This is exactly the reaction I want. That night, only Dad was at home. As always, my brother took his wife out to play. Mom went to live at a relative's house because she was angry. I continued to stay in my room, eating dinner while sending messages to Dad. Dad, the servant accidentally took my sister-in-law's clothes and put them back in my room. Please help me quietly return them to her, otherwise my brother will get angry again. In the surveillance footage, as soon as Dad saw my message, he raised his eyebrows and an inexplicably excited smile curved on the corner of his mouth. However, he sent me a voice message refusing. It's not appropriate for me to take women's clothes. Moreover, it's your sister-in-law's. Wait until you come back and you can deliver it yourself. I said, sister-in-law hates it the most when others mess up her things. Now the atmosphere at home is so tense. I really don't want any other things to happen. Please help me solve this quietly. Dad's smile at the corner of his mouth became even more obvious. He said to me, then let's make it clear first. This is you who asked me to go. Dad, who usually walks slowly, now ran towards my brother and sister-in-law's room in 3 steps and 2 strides. He quickly locked onto one pink-purple nightgown among a pile of clothes. If he didn't pay much attention usually, how could he recognize at a glance that it was my sister-in-law's clothes? He held the skirt in his palm, first greedily sniffed it, and then spread it on the bed as if he was about to press on it. At this moment, he noticed a slit on the side of the skirt. His face quickly drooped. He grabbed his phone and sent me a voice message. Diana, what have you done? The skirt is broken. Now your sister-in-law will definitely be unhappy. How can you not even do such a small thing well? Full of resentment, as if I had done some heinous crime, I innocently said, it's just a piece of clothing, Dad. You scared me. He quickly said, although it's just a piece of clothing, your sister-in-law has always treasured this skirt the most. This is a custom-made skirt that your brother spent hundreds of thousands on for her. If you two quarrel over this, the family will be in disharmony again. I'm scolding you because I'm thinking about this family. I followed his words and said, then what should we do? It's too late to customize it now. Why don't I buy a similar one for my sister-in-law? I don't know where I can buy it either. Dad was silent. I saw deep thought in his eyes from the camera. I suddenly remembered a sentence my brother once said to my sister-in-law. He said, every man wants the woman he likes to wear something he gives. Thinking of this, I sent a voice message to Dad. Dad, I'm busy having a classmate gathering. If you don't have time for this, then you help me solve it quietly. For the great harmony of the family, please do it for me. In the surveillance footage, Dad listened to my voice message and showed a bright smile. Since you are not available, then I have to take care of it. After all, I am your dad. Oh, that sounds so nice. After I died in my previous life, he didn't shed a single tear. At that time, I still had a breath left. When Mom found out, she called people to send me to the hospital. But Dad stopped her. At that time, he glared at me with red eyes and scolded me, with a damaged throat, she can't go to a good university and can't marry into a family of equal status. Keeping her is useless except for increasing family conflicts. In fact, he deliberately didn't let me live just because he was afraid that I would take revenge on my sister-in-law. As my thoughts returned, I looked at him kissing and rubbing his sister-in-law's skirt, and let out a cold laugh. Wait and see, the storm will come soon. 07 The next day, Dad went out in person to the clothing store that my sister-in-law often goes to buy a skirt. I had the WeChat of the store manager there and privately messaged her to ask about the situation. She said that after my dad went there, he specifically asked for a nightgown of the same style but in a different color. Just as I expected. Everyone who wants to please others hopes that the other person knows what they have done. If you buy an exactly the same skirt, how can my sister-in-law know that this is his intention? A sense of pleasure that revenge is about to succeed welled up in my heart, and I took a big bite of a sandwich. Soon, Dad came home with a new skirt. He first put the new skirt in his sister-in-law's closet, and then stuffed the old skirt into his pillow. My brother, because he didn't go to work, spent a night out having fun and came back. As soon as he got out of the car, he dragged his sister-in-law into the house. The expressions on both of their faces were very unpleasant. This was the first time I saw such obvious real emotions from my sister-in-law, with not much pretense. She forcefully broke free from my brother's hand. "You're hurting me." My brother turned around, with an expression of wanting to scold but being helpless. Unable to speak, he just stared and then sent a text message with his head down. Perhaps he was too excited and accidentally sent the message to me. "Don't think I don't know how many men you were flirting with all night. Do you think they will take a fancy to you? They are all rich people and will definitely not marry a divorced woman." I casually took a screenshot and sent it to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law bit her lip and made a pitiful look again. Dad, who was sitting in the distance having breakfast and saw this, frowned in distress. "Brandon, why are you getting angry at your wife? Men who get angry at their wives are the most useless." My brother couldn't speak. He smashed 2 expensive ornaments in a row and then went upstairs. Seeing this, Dad comforted his sister-in-law. "Eugenia, don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, no one in this family dares to bully you." My sister-in-law suddenly raised her eyelids and looked at Dad. Her eyes were very complicated. I don't know what she's thinking. However, from the perspective of the surveillance camera, her hand pulled down the skirt a little. Then, she lowered her head and said softly, "Dad, thanks to you." Dad was so excited that he was about to burst. He put his arm around his sister-in-law's shoulder in an empty gesture. He said gently, "In the future, if you want anything, just tell me. Brandon is injured now and in a bad mood. Don't take him seriously. In this family, I'm always in charge." My sister-in-law pursed her lips and silently took a step closer to my dad. This small action further encouraged Dad, prompting him to directly put his hand on his sister-in-law's shoulder. He directly said to his sister-in-law, "Diana was careless and damaged your nightgown. I bought you a new one. It's more expensive than the original one. See if it fits." My sister-in-law pursed her lips again and said, "What if Mom knows and is unhappy?" When mentioning my mom, Dad's expression froze slightly. Then he withdrew that hand. After looking around for a few times, he said, "Then don't let her know." That night, my sister-in-law put on the skirt that Dad bought. It fit just right. However, when she walked past my brother, he grabbed her wrist. My brother was furious and said to his sister-in-law in lip language, "Who bought this skirt for you?" After a period of treatment, he can say a little bit, but it's very unpleasant to hear and the pronunciation is not very accurate. However, you can judge what he says according to his lip shape. My sister-in-law wasn't very flustered. She raised her chin and said without blushing or panting, "I bought it myself." My brother was even angrier. His face was flushed with anger. "I personally pick out every piece of clothing for you. This skirt is definitely not bought by me, and it's even less likely to be bought by you. This gaudy color, you couldn't possibly like it. The skirt is a very bright rose red, very eye-catching." I don't know if my sister-in-law felt that she had a huge backer, so she continued to provoke my brother. "People's hobbies can change. I used to like light colors, but now I prefer dark colors." She said this sentence very loudly, loud enough for everyone in the whole house to hear. From the surveillance camera perspective on the stairs, I saw Dad, who was hiding there and eavesdropping, showing a smug smile. After substituting himself, he couldn't take it anymore and lashed out. My sister-in-law was stunned for a moment, and then screamed, "You really are a domestic abuser. I want a divorce." Divorce? In fact, my brother regretted it as soon as he hit her, but as soon as he heard the word divorce, he got angry again. He directly dragged his sister-in-law back to the room and forced himself on her. Dad listened outside. His face was very tormented and complicated. Soon after, I suddenly received a call from my mom. She said that Dad wants a divorce from her. Hee. This is after hearing that my sister-in-law wants a divorce, and he can't wait to bring it up too. In the previous life, there was at least an excuse. Now, without even an excuse, he wants to drive my mom away. Let's see if I can let you get what you want. 09 Mom is still immersed in the sadness of being beaten by her own son. Suddenly being divorced is undoubtedly a double blow. Sadly, she is actually reflecting on herself, wondering if she did something wrong to be divorced by my dad. I directly sent her the video of dad molesting his sister-in-law's nightgown. She was hit hard and cried uncontrollably. This matter will be known sooner or later. A short pain is better than a long one. I asked her to travel outside first and not answer dad's calls. I said, "Come back after I deal with this matter." She stopped crying and asked me, "What are you going to do?" "Don't do anything stupid. As a girl, how can you oppose them? I have my own way. Anyway, don't come back first." Mom asked hesitantly, "This kind of thing is not glorious if it spreads out. Your brother has just been hit hard. If he knows about this, he won't be able to bear it." I was annoyed. "He even dared to kick you in the face. Why are you still thinking about him?" Mom was speechless. So, I forwarded a hot post from my university forum to her. As the highest score admitted to this school this year, my name has become popular on the forum. Before, it was always praise and expectation. Starting last night, suddenly there was a black material post. All my embarrassing things from childhood to adulthood were exposed, and there were also photos attached. The informant was blatant and directly wrote the 4 words, "Diana's elder brother." He mixed truth and falsehood, spread rumors about me in his words, implying to others that my private life is chaotic, and I even bullied classmates many times. Before school even starts, my reputation has been ruined. The senior students and sisters who took the initiative to add me and invite me to join the student union also deleted me on their own initiative. I can foresee what my life will be like after school starts, being isolated and continuously slandered. Since every sentence of his implies and leaves a lot of room for imagination. Therefore, it is impossible to directly say that he is spreading rumors. After Mom read the post, she was so angry that she cried. She said, "I might as well have never given birth to him." After getting her response, I was completely relieved. Mom personally posted a video on Weibo, tagging the official blog of my school and relatively well-known campus journalists. In a motherly tone, she briefly described the conflict between me and my brother, and then said that this was my brother's deliberate revenge on me. My son can't tell right from wrong. He can't bear to blame his beloved wife for his own misfortune, so he pushes all the faults onto my innocent daughter. Everyone is smart. Judge for yourself who is right and who is wrong. She also posted the video of my sister-in-law drugging me on the internet. In just 1 hour, the coverage of this matter spread from my school to the entire internet. The gimmick of me being the top scorer in the college entrance examination combined with the influence of my family's company is easy to attract greater attention. My brother and sister-in-law are the first to bear the brunt and become the targets of netizens' attacks. The Deng family is one of the wealthy families in the Beijing circle. How can there be such a stupid and fawning heir? It's already bad enough to choose a stupid wife. After being poisoned and made mute by her, he still doesn't dare to hold her accountable. When he gets angry, he vents on his own sister. He is really cowardly, stupid, and bad. Is that sister-in-law really 25? Saying people all the time. Could she be an underdeveloped retard? A retard wouldn't be unable to tell the difference between toilet cleaner and syrup. One is in the kitchen and the other is in the toilet. How mentally retarded must one be to look for syrup in the toilet? On the 10th, my phone was ringing off the hook. They were all calls from my brother. When I didn't answer, he kept sending me threatening messages to scare me. I was not impatient and drove a recreational vehicle and parked in another place. I continued to watch the surveillance at home. Once the matter on the internet fermented, my sister-in-law was scared and cried. It was no use even when my brother and dad took turns to coax her. The whole house was filled with dad's curse. My brother couldn't make a clear sound and vented his anger by smashing things. The father and son both assured my sister-in-law that they would punish our mother and daughter well. I stared at my father's face with bulging veins from anger, feeling a sense of irony in my heart. When I was just transferred to a new school and was bullied by classmates, he wasn't so angry. He just asked me to solve it independently in a very indifferent way. I thought it was because of his personality. It turns out that it's just that I'm not an important person in his heart. After making a promise to my sister-in-law, he immediately called me. I was curious about what he would say to me, so I answered and quietly clicked to record. He started with a gentle tone, "Diana, come back after you've had enough fun outside. Dad has something to tell you." "Oh, acting. I can do it too." I sniffed and pretended to cry. "Dad, my brother and sister-in-law bullied me. Mom spoke up for me. Record a video for me as proof too." In the surveillance footage, a sinister look appeared in Dad's eyes. "Okay, come back first. We'll talk about other things later. I will definitely not go back until my brother and sister-in-law come to apologize to me. What are you doing outside if you don't come back?" Dad's patience was exhausted and he quickly showed his true colors and yelled at me. I continued to pretend to be weak. "Dad, you scared me. That's because you did something wrong that I scolded you. Family scandals should not be made public. You and your mom actually colluded and scolded your brother and sister-in-law in front of the whole country. You and your mom have completely disgraced the Dang family. In view of your mistakes this time, I have decided to divorce your mom. If you still want to get my property, go and persuade her to come back and sign. As for your brother, he is also at fault. I will not be partial to anyone. I will remove his position and kick him out of the company." He said this very loudly, and quickly made my brother in the same picture fly into a rage. When my brother was about to pounce on Dad for an explanation, he was held down by Dad's bodyguard. Dad then hung up my call. Then she pointed at her elder brother and angrily scolded, "You went to your younger sister's school forum to make trouble and ruin her reputation. This matter is extremely abominable in nature. I can't hand over my company to you. I'll give you a sum of money. Go out and make your own way. If you can't make a name for yourself, don't come back." The elder brother cowered and knelt down, making sounds with his mouth to plead with his father. Father frowned. "Only one of you two, husband and wife, can stay at home. Otherwise, leave together. You make your choice." The elder brother looked puzzled. Father said, "This is also to train you. Otherwise, if you are love-struck all day long, how can you run the company well?" The sister-in-law pouted and pushed my elder brother's arm. Her moist big eyes showed pleading. After thinking, my elder brother pushed his sister-in-law in front of my father. He said with difficulty in lip language, "Eugenia will suffer outside. I'll go and live outside. When I make it, I'll come back and pick her up." Father impatiently waved his hand and told him to leave quickly. After half an hour of reluctant parting between the young couple, the elder brother left. The sister-in-law couldn't wait to return to the living room. She walked towards my father coyly. Alone, a man and a woman, the atmosphere inexplicably heated up. Father said to her, "Eugenia, now no one will bully you. In this family, you are in charge." The sister-in-law's eyes lit up with surprise and she ran to sit next to father. "You are so kind, Dad." Father raised an eyebrow and said meaningfully, "Since you are about to divorce Brandon, don't call me Dad anymore." Then he added, "I am also going to get divorced. Speaking of which, we are both about to be single adults and will have a lot in common." The sister-in-law pursed her lips and smiled shyly, her cheeks blushing. Then, she said worriedly, "What if Brandon doesn't agree?" Father shrugged. "Then you can sue and say he has been violent towards you. I will find you the best lawyer and make sure you get divorced." The sister-in-law widened her eyes in excitement and was about to hug my father with open arms. Unexpectedly, she was dodged by my father. He didn't even dare to touch her hand. He said seriously, "Not now." 11. Half an hour later, my sister-in-law called me. As soon as she opened her mouth, she was full of arrogance. "Sister, I have good news and bad news to tell you. Which one do you want to hear?" I sneered. "As long as you are still alive, there is no good news for me." She let out an affected laugh. Then sister, you will be depressed for the rest of your life. Because I am about to become the mistress of the Dang family. I have had all the things in your room thrown out. I will use it to put the luxury goods your father bought for me. By the way, your mother's things are too old-fashioned in taste and have lowered Lao Dang's temperament by several grades. I have thrown them all away. Please tell her. I sneered. You are so arrogant even when you are so eager to be a mistress. You really have no shame. She didn't care. Say whatever you want. Anyway, it is me who will enjoy happiness in this life. And you all will have to suffer. Later, I will give birth to several children for Lao Dang and inherit the Dang family's property. You two, go and be poor people. Oh, by the way, when you finish your studies later, I will hire you to sing a few songs for me. After all, we are acquaintances. I will pay you more performance fees. She was really extremely smug. I asked her unhurriedly, I have recorded all your words. Aren't you afraid of his revenge when I send it to my brother? She laughed heartily. Sister is still as naive as ever. To tell you the truth, I already knew you had surveillance cameras at home. Actually, I am not afraid at all. Because I am beautiful and have charmed your father so much. Sister, let me tell you a truth. Clinging to people with real power is the most important winning magic weapon. You recording these things is just helping me ascend. It's just being scolded a few times. I am not afraid. Her fearless appearance was not unexpected. I chuckled. You should wait until things are settled before showing off. You and my father haven't had any substantial actions yet. She sneered twice. I, Eugenia, never do things without certainty. Open your eyes and see clearly. The next second, she sent me a video. It was a video of her snuggling up next to my father, both of them taking selfies without a stitch of clothing. I quickly saved the video. She said again, although I am not afraid of you exposing these evidences, I still think you are so in the way. So I asked your brother to kill you. I narrowed my eyes and opened my brother's WeChat. Sure enough, he also received the video sent by his sister-in-law. But, to him, the sister-in-law said that I got her drunk and sent her to my father's bed. The sister-in-law's voice came sinisterly. Sister, my counterattack is good, right? I didn't speak but curled up a sneer. 12. I smelled the smell of gasoline. From the surveillance camera in the RV, I could see that my elder brother was carrying gasoline and splashing it around me. He is really crazy. In broad daylight, he dares to kill. Once I die, he will be a murderer. At that time, the sister-in-law's road to divorce will be even smoother, and no one will compete with her for the Dang family's property. But how can I let her get what she wants? She must have calculated the time and thought I wouldn't have time to send the evidence to my brother, so she showed off to me. But I have been live streaming all along. In the live streaming room, there are already tens of thousands of viewers, and many of them are people nearby. Many people have already called the police for me, and some people say they will come to save me. Sure enough, the moment my elder brother took out the lighter, several enthusiastic people tackled him from behind. 2 people pressed on him to keep him from moving. Another person shoved the recorded screen of my live stream right in front of him and showed it to him. Idiot! Your wife has already had an affair with your father. And you are still stupidly being used as a killing tool for her. My elder brother's eyes were wide with rage. He let out a long howl and was overwhelmed with grief. More and more people gathered around, all pointing at him. He fled in a sorry state and disappeared into the crowd. This incident quickly spread all over the internet. Mom officially filed for divorce from my dad. On that day, I accompanied Mom back to the Dang family. My sister-in-law was sitting in the living room nonchalantly, facing us with the air of a hostess. Don't you think that exposing my affairs can deal with me? It's so ridiculous. Now there is no actual casualties. Then I haven't committed a crime. As long as I haven't committed a crime, everything in the Dang family is mine. She looked at my mom arrogantly. Sign the divorce papers quickly and leave my house with the compensation. Mom snorted coldly, I will divorce, but the ones who should leave are you 2 beasts. My sister-in-law laughed, this place is surnamed Dang. The person in power is old Dang. Whoever he likes can stay. He has just rushed to the company for a meeting. When he comes back from the meeting, he will divorce you, this old hag. I chuckled. Do you know why he rushed to the company? She lifted her chin. Of course it's to handle the equity transfer agreement for me. I said, back then, the condition for my dad to marry my mom was that he couldn't cheat during marriage. Once he did, he must leave with nothing. My sister-in-law was stunned, and then let out a dry laugh. No, it's impossible. I smiled. I also want to thank you for taking the initiative to send me the evidence. Otherwise, I really couldn't solve this matter so quickly. My sister-in-law suddenly collapsed and sat on the ground limply. In the next second, she forced a smile. It doesn't matter. Even if it's really like this, then since I haven't divorced your brother, I am eligible to inherit your mom's inheritance. Ha ha ha. She is really crazy. You have betrayed him. Do you still think he will continue to love you? My sister-in-law was very confident. I am so beautiful. He will definitely not bear to hurt me. Before she finished speaking, my elder brother came back. Seeing this, my sister-in-law immediately ran over and threw herself into his arms to act coquettishly. I was wrong. I just made a mistake because I was too stupid. I won't dare to do it again in the future. Darling husband, will you forgive me, right? She pouted and looked at her elder brother with moist eyes. Elder brother smiled. In the next second, he picked her up horizontally and threw her into the swimming pool on one side. Pressing her head, he didn't let her surface. My sister-in-law was drowned alive by my elder brother in the water. Her two arms hung down powerlessly and didn't move at all. There were tears in elder brother's eyes, but he didn't let go throughout. Undoubtedly, he loved her. Neither mom nor I expected that his love for my sister-in-law would be so deep. So we didn't expect that he would suddenly take out a knife, stab himself in the chest, and fall into the swimming pool. They died like this. Mom shed silent tears but didn't call an ambulance. When elder brother was pouring gasoline outside my car, she ran out barefoot to stop him. She had long been completely disappointed in my elder brother. A month later, Mom and Dad got a complete divorce. Mom and I sold that house and moved to live elsewhere. Dad, who left with nothing, could only find a job as a security guard in a random community because of his old age. His incident spread so widely that he was laughed at every day. In less than a month, he couldn't do it anymore. Soon after, I received a text message from him. I thought it would be words of apology or something. Unexpectedly, it was a glaring line of words. When I make a comeback, I will come back and kill you two bitches. Only after I inquired did I know that he had gone abroad. Someone told him that there are ways to get rich in Myanmar. He didn't hesitate to quit his job as a security guard and flew to Myanmar overnight. I remembered that I had installed a location tracker on his phone. After checking, I found that his last location was in northern Myanmar. I chuckled. Good luck, Dad.